Chapter 1: The Town of Pythonia. Imagine a beautiful town named Pythonia, where everything is neatly labeled. The shops, the houses, even the streetlights have unique names to help people find their way. This naming system is super important because if two shops had the same name, people would get confused. Imagine going to Bob's Bakery to buy a cake, but there are 3 different Bob's Bakeries on the same street. How would you know where to go? Now, just like Pythonia needs a proper naming system, Python, the programming language, needs rules for naming things. In Python, we name things like variables and functions using identifiers.
Hello folks, an identifier is simply a name which you give to something in Python. Just like we name a streets and houses in our town. So let's say if I wanted to give a name in a Python, so let's dive into simple example so that you will understand how you can name an identifier so that it will be very easy for you. Let's say I'm giving the shop name which is a Bob's Bakery, which you have understood from a initial story. We are giving the name for the shop, right? And we are just setting the cake price as 15 rupees, correct? So these names are easy to identify, right? And use these values later as well, correct? So let me use this particular conventions within the Python so that we can use it, so that I can show you which is a valid name or not, so you will be able to understand that as well. So let's dive into it. Let me open up the any particular Jupyter notebook so that you can understand whether it is a valid identifier or not. So for that I am using a Jupyter notebook, folks, so make you understand that. Okay, it may take time. Okay, so for till then I will be coming back then. Yes folks, so you understood identifier is simply a name you give to something in Python, just like we name in streets and houses in our town. Okay, so let's dive into it. First we will just name shop name equal to some bakery name we will give it, so that you will understand. So is it valid or not, which I am talking about it, correct? So it is working now. Let us print this particular values. Okay, so now let's print it. So it is working fine now. So let's now set the price for a cake. So is it working or not, this convention, correct or not? Okay, so now it is printing. So this name make it easy to identify and use these values later. Okay, in the next section we'll try to understand about rules of naming in Pythonia. Okay. So now, but wait, mayor of Pythonia is Mr. Guido van Rossum, the creator of Python. He made some strict rules for naming things so that towns remains organized. Correct. These rules help software developer, AI engineers, medical professionals, and students work with Python more effectively. So if he has not created this rule, everyone will create their own rules, correct? So this is not to have a common things that this Guido van Rossum, creator of Python, he came up with this particular rules. So stick to it. So we'll try to understand which are those rules, and we'll try to understand one by one. So let's get started with the rule number 1, allowed characters. Okay, now we'll try to understand about the rule number 1, that is allowed characters, correct? So only certain types of characters are allowed in names you can use, like letter capital A to Z to small a to Z, just like a name of a shop, Bob's Bakery. Let's say rule number 2 in the rule number 1 itself. So number 2 point you have to understand that number is allowable 0 to 9. You can have a shop like Bakery 101, but the name can't start with the number. Okay, so that make sure that. And number 3, third point, you have to understand that underscore is allowed. Some shops like underscore private club are hidden and only accessible to certain members. Okay, so illegal characters like dollar are not allowed. So let's take an example so that you will understand what I'm talking about. So let me explain you here. Okay, so rule number 1, is it following small capital A to Z to small a to Z? Yes, it is following. So rule number 2, numbers, after the number it should be applicable, but in this particular I am not using. So underscore is allowed, I am using that, and this thing is working out here, so I am equating to this. So this is a valid identifier, correct? So anyone has a doubt, just put into the comment section below, so I will try to resolve your questions. So this is what the identifier is all about. So let's say if I'm using in between dollar or something, it is not applicable, folks. Okay, it is acceptable. Let's say if I'm using dollar in between of that, it will be not getting that. So let me show you. See, if you see here, what it is telling, syntax error, correct? So this is what the issue is. If you think of it like this, if someone try to name their shop as C@SHM_M@RT, so no one would understand that, right? Like what this shop is all about. So you have to understand something like this, like ruling the name of the things. So in the next section, we'll try to understand about rule number 2, no starting with the number. So now rule number 2. So in the rule number 2, no starting with a number. So in this particular thing, you have to understand that you cannot start a name with a number in Python. Okay, this is a rule number 2. Let's say if I am trying to use something like this, so it will not able to take it. See here, I am getting this error. So how we can rectify it? So we can have it like shop or capital letters 1 2 3, something like this, but at the first the identifier should not be the number. Okay, so that thing you have to understand very clearly about it. So let's get started all together on top of it. So see, it is going to take it. So understand one thing, that you cannot start with a name with a number in Python. Okay, so identifier cannot be start with a number at the start, but at the last you can take as a number. Okay, at the start you should not take it. So that is what the thing is all about. So in the rule number 3, we're going to dive into the case sensitivity. So Python distinguish between upper and lower case very differently. That is what all about this particular rule. See, let's say if I'm writing on one identifier in a capital letters, one particular identifier, another identifier in the lowercase letter, so it treats very differently. So let's dive into it. So let me give you an example so that you will understand here. So let me take those examples. So I will just give you an example here. Okay, I have taken one in all in a small case and one thing in a upper case. See here, I have written this one correct. Are you understanding? So it has to be written, it is treating differently, correct guys? So this is what you have to understand. This is all about. So case sensitivity rule. So even the words look similar, the Python uses this as a two different names. This is like having a two shops, coffee house and coffee house. So it is difference in the case basically. So they might be different place and sell different things. So rule number 4, we'll try to understand about special naming conventions. So you will try to understand, but it is an out of scope of this particular video, but I will try my level best to explain you. So this will be coming at the last when we going to dive into the object oriented concepts. Okay, so in this particular video we will be going to focus all about rule number 4. So but only the things we will be going to discuss, that all the things in details in OOPS concept, object oriented programming. Let's discuss all about the special naming conventions. So whenever you are writing underscore before an identifier, if you are writing underscore, a single underscore at the start means this is a private. Okay, underscore name, two underscores means it is strongly private. Okay, so when you are writing underscore name underscore, okay, so it is stating as a bold here, folks. So I will make it some spaces here, so that whenever you are watching this particular video, you try to understand this particular video, but there's no spaces here because making you understand, I have given this space here. Try to understand when you are watching this particular video. Try to have this particular notebook as well with you. So I will be putting into my GitHub URL, folks, so that you can get this resource, and while you are watching, just have a note of it and try to learn both as well. Okay, so at the both ends, the special functions in Python basically. So let me give an example here. So let's say you are you have a coffee shop, okay, and you have a hidden ingredient and hidden recipe, so you don't want to share with others. So you will just only share the this recipe to one of your member persons, correct? So this is what this kind of a methods we can use. Underscore some init function underscore means protected. This particular things is like we should protected basically. Technical and employee can see, but they should not be using directly. So it is a hidden family recipe in a bakery. So underscore secret underscore recipe is a hidden family recipe. Let's say this is a hidden recipe basically. So let me go walk you through that. So it is not accessible directly. Let's say it is not, this ingredient is not accessible. Let's say I will give you an example so that will make more sense. Okay, let's say if I am accessing this secret recipe and I wanted to access it, let's say as a normal user, if I am going to the coffee shop, so I am creating an object. Then this terminologies you will be learning after we will be having a following series in the OOPS concept, so that you will understand what is this objects, what is classes and objects all about. So we'll understand in later parts. First you try to understand. See, so hidden ingredient, correct? So secret recipe, it is an hidden family recipe in a bakery. Technical and employee can see it, but they should not be using it directly, correct? So they will be following that ingredient and following this process, but this is an ingredient they will be going to understand, but who made it, how he made it, these are the things will be not, it will be hidden. Okay, so this is what I would say the private member basically, I would say. Okay, so at the last, rule number 5, reserved words are forbidden. Okay, so that particular part we'll try to understand in next section, so that you will understand. Now we'll try to understand about reserved words are forbidden. Okay, so Python are certain words reserved for its own commands, like def, class, if, else. This cannot be used as an identifier. So certain words are reserved, correct? Certain words cannot be used in your own ways, correct? You cannot use as a naming conventions, as an identifier you cannot use. So let's take an example like we have mentioned here, def. So can we use it or not? We'll try to use it in practical ways so that you will understand. So what this guy is talking about, only is talking, but he's not proving it. So let's say if I am writing some 100 value, so what it is telling, invalid syntax. Okay, anyone has a doubt, right, related to what is the syntax, just comment down below. I will making this separate video, so make you understand what is the syntax is in the detailed part. So let me know in a comment section, folks, if you have doubt related to that convention. Okay, so it gives an error, correct, folks? So you have to understand this is like you can relate to it like this is a trying to name your shop government office when it is not a government office. You are naming as a government office, but it is not a government office. You are not allowed to do that, correct? So another section will try to understand about rule number 6, no length limit but keep it readable. If you notice here, there is a no limit, correct? Like this variable name is a way too long and no one will like typing it. So if I'm just executing, it will execute, not an issue, folks. But it is not a better practice. It is not a better practice to have this long naming convention. Will you have like your name such a long thing? No, right? So you have to understand this one particular thing, correct? So it better way is something like, if we wanted to refactor it, we can have it something like this, clear and simple. Okay, so it should be clear and simple and everyone should understand what this particular name is all about. Okay, so you have to understand this particular aspect. So imagine, like, try to imagine like you are trying to search for a shop with a name like best ever coffee house that has been most delicious coffee in the entire world. No would bother typing the full name in the Google Maps. No would bother typing in the full name, correct, folks? So you have to understand this particular aspect as well. So you have to understand this particular thing. Okay, so I will try to write it certain discussion we had, okay, so that whenever you refer it, you will try to understand that as well. Okay, so no one would bother, correct, so to type this. So I will just make it as a markdown, so it will be easy, correct? So we have like reserved words are forbidden, also we had something, certain things we'll add it and we'll add it as a markdown. All right, so we'll add it as a markdown, so whenever you watch this particular thing, you will try to understand this as a whole. Okay, so this is a what rule number 6. So now in the next section we'll try to understand real world use cases. In another section we'll try to understand about real world use cases. Now let's see how different professionals uses this identifier in their fields. Let me explain you about the developer use identifier to name a variables and function and classes. Okay, so how this particular thing will be, and what will be the bad way of writing, I will be going to show you. Okay, so this is like how developers do basically for identifying something like calculate total price, price tax, return price plus price into tax. This is a particular thing. So you will be asking like, what is a bad way, bad practice, bad identifier? So bad identifier is nothing but the name which you give, right? It will be not best practices as market standards. So let's say if I'm using something like this, def a of xy, who will understand this? no one will understand what A means, what X means, what Y means, what is X plus X into Y. No one understand, correct? So the naming is very important, so plays a major role. So without clear identifiers, the code becomes confusing for other developers as well. So you try to understand this particular aspect, like it confuse to other developers as well. If you are not giving the name for a variable, that means that you are identifier, you are not giving the proper convention here. So motive of this particular video is all about to make you understand what is an identifier. Like majorly I have seen the people, freshers, working professionals, they are not able to understand what is an identifier basically is all about. So basics is weak there. So you have to understand this particular aspect as the whole. Okay, so without clear identifiers, the code becomes confusing for other developers as well. Okay, so in AI and machine learning engineers, how the identifier works for the data set and the models. So let me discuss all about that so that you will understand and what is a bad example of doing it, and how. First we'll try to talk about first bad example, then we'll try to understand about how we can do this. Okay, so AI and machine learning engineers are critical with the data sets and the models. So let me put it in this way. AI and machine learning. So let's say if you are doing something like this as a fresher, you are making a mistake here. What no one knows what is an N, what is a and what is a D mean, correct? So how can we refactor this? So how can we do this? Instead of P, you should have certain like this: patient data, name is John Doe, age is 45, disease is diabetes. So something like this, the like critical identifiers, it is critical here in this particular case, in this particular domain as well. Okay, so you have to, I hope you are getting this particular thing. If someone else works on this way, they will struggle to understand the code, correct? If you are writing this way, so someone else working on this particular project, he will also facing a problem here. Correct. So he will also always, he will be not focusing on this particularly, folks. Okay, so now third use case you have to understand in a real medical field and AI applications. Basically, let's build a mini project. Okay, so that you will understand. Basically, let's build a mini project. Okay, so it's a long video, folks. I will make it very short. So I have already prepared this particular thing for you, so I'm just showing it to how things is working. Okay, so let's say let's take this particular example. Okay, like simple, I'm not building complex here, so making very simple here. So let's say we'll take a class as a patient, and we'll have a constructor here. We'll have a name, age and symptoms. So we have a name, we have a age, we have a symptoms. Any patient you take it, this particular three things attributes will be there. So what doctor will be doing, he will be going to diagnose, and if fever in the symptoms and cough is it in the symptoms, return what it will be returning, possible flu, correct? Otherwise it will be returning diagnose unknown. So we are creating one object which is calling the patient class, and which is taking the name, age and the symptoms basically. So if it is found this particularly, it will be returning as a possible flu. Okay, so something like this. I hope you understood this particularly. I made it very simple things to make you understand, folks. You will be understanding this object oriented. If you are not able to understand, please comment down below what kind of a concepts that do you wanted to focus on basics first, then we'll try to focus on object oriented programming concepts or not. Just let me know in the comment down below. Okay, so like next section, we are like grand lesson. You have to understand that identifiers are like a street names in Python. If you follow the rules, your code is readable. Others can understand it. It prevents errors and confusion. If you don't follow the rules, your code will be messy. Other developers won't understand your logic. Errors and confusion will slow down the progress. Final understanding. Next time you write the code, think of Pythonia land, how proper naming makes the town, and your programs easier to navigate. And happy coding, folks. Okay, that's what about this particular video. If you like this particular video, folks, just follow along this particular videos, folks. Following along this particular series, you will be understanding a lot about that. So you will be getting this particular material. If you want, I will be posting in the description. You can just take it from that and take up learnings out that. This is all about this particular signing off this particular day, and we'll get back into the another particular episode and video playlist series. We will be going to do it. Just comment down below how would you like this particular video.